So it wasn't 2 weeks ago that I finished my 1971 Honda CT70 bike, and I really plan on taking a few weeks off, a couple months, maybe longer, on the CT70 bikes and focusing on some of the other stuff in my garage. But I was online and came across what I considered a really good deal on a 1969 silver tag frame, engine casing with the near matching serial number, speedometer with 7,878 miles on it, as well as the front fork. I say relatively good deal. The prices of these bikes are now pretty inflated, and they seem to only be going up. So I think I spent $600 or a little more on all of these items, and based on what I've seen and paid for other bikes, that seems like a relatively good deal. The frame is actually in very good shape, being the oldest bike or the oldest CT70 that I've had so far. The serial number is in the low 10,000s. The silver tags, I think, went about 18,000, so 10,000 puts it somewhere right in the middle there. The silver tags have a few nuances and intricacies that are different than the regular KO bike. Most of them are really minor, like the wire pass-through for the taillight coming out of the top instead of through the bottom of the rear of the frame. Some of the very early ones didn't have a cross member here in the front. This one does. And then, of course, it has a silver tag on the steer tube instead of a black tag that has the VIN number. I really think that the silver tags was Honda figuring out its manufacturing process and perfecting it before they started stamping the VIN on the head, and had a pretty common practice as they made a few 100,000 of these CT70s over the 10 plus years that they built this bike. And actually, I know they started building it again at some point in the 90s. So this bike has been around for a long time, but the reason this one piqued my interest is because, again, this is pretty much one of the oldest versions of the CT70 that I can get, and again, for me, it was a relatively good price. So on this bike, I was at first thinking that I need a gold bike because that's the only color of the KO that I haven't done yet, but since this one is particularly valuable, or interesting at least, being that silver tag edition, I'm going to restore it in the candy red color, and this time I am going to do a paint. I think I mentioned in my previous video that at some point I need to do a paint because I keep doing this powder coat that looks fantastic, but from a restoration perspective isn't all that authentic. And then the other drawback is that I can never do the headlight bucket because these are only available in plastic that you can't get into an oven when you're doing the powder coat process. So I need to find a painter. If anybody knows one in San Diego that they recommend, drop it in the comments or hit me up directly. I'd appreciate it. Here, I imagine there's got to be a lot of fine painters that can do it for me, though, and I know online there's a lot of companies, or at least a couple, that sell the authentic or very close, I think it's Candy Ruby Red, that this bike is coated in. I'm also going to make sure that the bodywork is perfect before the paint goes on. For the powder coat, you can't use any body fillers or anything like that because it'll likely melt or not adhere to the powder when it goes through that process. So on this bike, there's a couple of small dents that I wasn't able to completely bang out that you just have to live with when you're doing a powder coat. But in this case, on this bike, I'm going to try to make it as perfect as possible. I'm also going to try to make it as close to the original silver tag as possible. There's a few other nuances, like on the silver tag model, there's a lip on the front fender that the other CT70s didn't have. Some of these pieces are pretty expensive though. On eBay, looking at closed auctions, some of these fenders go for like $300, and they still need to be re-chromed, which will add another $100 or $200. $500 for a fender may be overpriced for this particular build, or over budget, but again, maybe this is one that I take my time on and make that near perfect restoration. So anyway, just wanted to introduce you guys to this frame because I'm particularly excited about it, and I'm sure you're wondering, how can you keep being excited about building the same bike over and over again? But each one has something interesting and special to me. This one being the silver tag and a very early copy of the CT70 sounds particularly interesting. Something else that I've been finding, particularly as I was doing the research on the silver tag model, I've seen a lot of mock-ups of a CT125 that's been rumored to eventually be released in Europe and Asia, and hopefully here also in North America. I know Honda's really been knocking it out of the park with their mini bike selections, with the Honda Monkey and the Grom, the Cub, and they've got a few other bikes at the same time. I really think the nostalgia factor of the CT70 is higher than any of those bikes. And if you throw a 125cc engine in this with some of the modern tech, I gotta imagine it'd be like printing money for Honda. So I will absolutely be one of the first people to have a deposit on one if they actually do announce that. I am curious too if that coming out, if it does come out, what it'll do to the original CT70 market. Again, prices just seem to be skyrocketing for these bikes. As the nostalgia factor, again, is just off the charts with it. I don't know though if being able to buy a brand new one that looks very much like the old one, if the renders are anywhere close to accurate. And if you look at the renders, all it really is a old school CT70 frame with the Honda Monkey wheels and fork and seat and everything else. And honestly, in the pictures, it looks really good. So let me know in the comments what you think it'll do to the market for the original ones. I could really see it bumping this up because people buy the new one and man, they also want the old one. Or maybe it scratches that itch and the old one then meets the need that they had and they don't go for this one. To me, it doesn't make a difference. Again, I don't build these bikes for the resale value or profiting off of them. I really do just very much enjoy them and the process of putting them back together, but really curious on how that might work out. Again, it's not even confirmed that that bike's coming out anyway, but really hope it does because I'd love to have one. Please take an opportunity to like this video. It really helps with the algorithm to get my videos out there. Subscribe. Thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.